Stories by Maya presents. Where every heart has a story, every story has a twist, and every twist teaches a truth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. The day her silence became their lesson. Some moments in life feel harmless at first. Just another afternoon, another errand, another visit. But sometimes, without warning, a single moment becomes the one that changes everything. The moment people discover exactly who you are and exactly what they misjudged. Evelyn Carter didn't look like a billionaire. That was the first thing anyone noticed, or failed to notice, about her. At 53, she wore her soft gray streaks with a quiet kind of grace, the kind that didn't need diamonds to sparkle or designer brands to impress. Her beauty was the kind that radiated from the calm in her eyes and the warmth of her smile, not from anything money could buy. And today, as she stood in her son's room watching him adjust the collar of his worn blue shirt, she felt the familiar flutter of motherly pride. "You look handsome," she said. Malik chuckled. "Handsome enough to survive meeting Amina's family?" Her smile widened, but a small sigh slipped out. "Meeting families is never the problem, sweetheart. It's the assumptions they bring with them." He turned, confused. "Mom, we've talked on video with Amina's parents before. They were a little stiff, yeah, but they weren't rude." "People are rarely rude when they don't know enough about you to underestimate you," she said softly. He paused, processing the weight of the sentence. Evelyn didn't explain further, because some lessons were learned only through living them. They stepped out of the house, a separate guest house on the estate, because they preferred living smaller despite owning bigger, and drove off together in Malik's very modest, slightly scratched silver sedan. It was the only car he truly enjoyed driving, simple, uncomplicated, real. The house they arrived at belonged to a family who believed they understood class, but had never once met Grace. The moment the door opened, Amina rushed out first, eyes bright, smile wide, wrapping her arms around Malik before he even had time to breathe. She looked at Evelyn and hugged her too. Evelyn returned the embrace with genuine warmth, but behind her stood the people who were supposed to welcome them. Amina's mother and father stared at Evelyn the way someone might stare at a stranger who wandered into a private event. Their eyes flicked over her outfit, her shoes, her bag, noting everything, appreciating nothing. Then their gaze shifted to the car. A glance was all it took. Their judgment was instant. Amina's father extended a stiff hand to Malik, then barely nodded at Evelyn. "You two found the place easily?" he asked. "Yes, thank you," Malik answered. Amina's mother stepped closer and smiled, but it was the kind of smile that only used lips, not eyes. "Well, please, come in. We prepared tea." The living room was neat, decorated tastefully, but with a sense of self-importance that screamed, "We want people to think we're rich," even though the decorations betrayed otherwise. Evelyn sat across from the parents, hands folded calmly on her lap. She didn't fidget, didn't shift nervously. She simply existed with silent dignity. But silence often invites others to fill it with ugliness. "So, Malik," the father began, crossing one leg over the other, "our daughter told us you two met in grad school." "That's right," Malik replied. "And she mentioned you work in a family business." "Yes, sir." The mother leaned forward. "What kind of business is that?" "We manage several investments," Malik answered honestly. "Oh," she said with an exaggerated expression of understanding. "Investments. Yes, yes. Everyone invests nowadays. Some people invest with millions. Some people invest pocket change." She laughed lightly, waiting for others to join. No one did. Amina shifted uncomfortably. "Mom." But her mother pressed on. "Now, Malik, let's speak plainly. Our daughter has certain expectations in life, and we want to make sure her future husband can provide stability." "And opportunity," the father added. "And security," her mother continued, "and access to a lifestyle she is accustomed to." "And comfort," the sister chimed in from the sofa. The father nodded. "Exactly," Amina whispered, horrified. "Can you all please stop?" But they didn't. The mother turned to Evelyn, her eyes gliding over her humble dress, her modest earrings, her simple sandals. "Mrs. Carter, we understand you come from a humble background." Evelyn smiled gently. "Humility is a blessing." The father raised an eyebrow. "Of course, but we must consider what our children's life will look like. Amina deserves a partner who can maintain, if not elevate, her current standards." "If you don't mind?" the sister asked with forced innocence. "What exactly do you earn?" Evelyn didn't flinch. Malik inhaled sharply. Amina looked as if she might burst into tears. But Evelyn spoke with calm, unshakable grace. "Well enough to provide for my family, and well enough to know that money doesn't measure a person's worth." The mother scoffed. "That's something people with limited resources always say." Amina covered her face, mortified. Malik clenched his jaw. "Mom, we can leave if—" But Evelyn gently rested her hand on his knee. "No, sweetheart, we're fine." She looked at the entire family, not with anger, not with wounded pride, but with a serene kind of patience that disarmed them more than yelling ever could. Then she spoke quietly. "We'd love to invite you to our home tomorrow. Lunch. Just us. A proper chance for our families to understand each other." Her tone was soft. Her smile was gentle. Her posture was humble. But there was something in her eyes, something calm, something powerful, that none of them could quite interpret. Amina's parents exchanged a glance. "Fine," the father said finally. "Noon," the mother added. Evelyn nodded once. "Wonderful." And that was it. She didn't defend herself. She didn't justify her wealth. She didn't correct their assumptions. She didn't remind them who the Carters really were, owners of properties across 4 states, investors in global tech companies, pioneers of one of the country's largest private foundations. She walked out quietly, leaving behind only the echo of her grace. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes silence is the storm warning. The next morning, Evelyn woke earlier than usual. Dawn had barely touched the sky, leaving soft gray strokes over the horizon that matched the silver strands in her hair. The mansion was quiet, the kind of quiet that existed only on large estates, where the nearest neighbor was far beyond the first line of trees. Even the silence felt spacious. She walked through the halls, greeting the staff with a warm smile, but she never acted like she was their superior. She asked about their families, how they slept, whether they were feeling all right. Real questions that came from a real heart. Evelyn Carter had enough money to command a continent if she wanted to, but she never let that change the softness in her soul. Today, she wasn't preparing for guests just to impress them. She wasn't setting a trap. She wasn't planning to humiliate anyone. She just wanted to show truth. The truth they refused to see yesterday when they looked at her son like he was reaching above his place, and at her like she had none. Money didn't define her, but today it would teach them. By mid-morning, the estate was alive with quiet movement. Staff polished the carved banisters, chefs filled the air with the aroma of rosemary chicken and saffron rice. One of the gardeners arranged a centerpiece of fresh orchids on the dining table. Still, nothing was done extravagantly on her request. This was simply how the Carter estate usually operated. Meanwhile, Malik dressed in his usual simple clothes. He hadn't changed a thing. Standing in his room, he looked nervous. "Mom," he called, finding her in the foyer. "Are we really doing this? I don't want Amina's family to think we're trying to—" "Show off?" she finished softly. He nodded awkwardly. Evelyn adjusted the collar of his shirt, her touch gentle. "My love, yesterday they judged us because they believed we had nothing. Today they will learn we never needed to prove anything." He exhaled, partly relieved, partly scared. "But I don't want them to feel—" "We are not punishing them," she reminded. "We are simply removing the blindfold they placed on themselves." They stepped outside together. A soft breeze rustled through the sculpted hedges. Somewhere in the distance, a fountain splashed rhythmically, the same fountain Evelyn's late husband designed before he passed. She touched Malik's arm. "This is our home, our life. We hide nothing." At exactly noon, a black sedan rolled hesitantly up the long driveway. It slowed with every passing second, as if the passengers inside were trying to convince themselves this wasn't the correct address. Finally, it parked in front of the entrance. Amina jumped out first, her jaw hanging open as she turned in a slow, shocked circle. "Oh my God," she whispered. "This can't be... Malik, this is where you live?" Her voice trembled from genuine disbelief. But her parents, their reaction was different. Her father stepped out gripping the door as though he needed support. Her mother clutched her purse as if someone might snatch it, although the staff were dressed better than she was. Her sister stepped out last, blinking rapidly, unable to process reality. The scale of the mansion was overwhelming. Tall white pillars rose like guardians. Every window shimmered. The double doors were carved with intricate designs that looked like they were imported from Europe. A marble fountain in the middle of the courtyard featured 2 stone lions with water flowing from their mouths, surrounded by rare flowers that bloomed like velvet. "Mother of..." Amina's father muttered. A uniformed doorman opened the door for them, with a bow. Amina's mother gasped. They have staff." Amina looked from her parents to the mansion like she was suddenly seeing Malik through different eyes, more clearly than ever. Then Evelyn stepped out onto the top of the steps. She didn't wear anything flashy. A simple cream dress, soft curls framing her face, her same warm smile. The same woman they had judged yesterday. But today, they finally saw her. "Welcome," she said, her voice gentle. Something in her tone, simple, calm, kind, struck the entire family like a deeper wound than any insult could have. They couldn't hide behind their assumptions anymore. They followed her inside. The foyer alone made the mother stumble. The floors were polished marble, veined with gold streaks that caught the light. A sweeping staircase curved upward like a sculpture. A chandelier descended from the ceiling, not crystal, but delicate hand-blown glass that shimmered like frozen rain. Staff walked by respectfully. "Good afternoon, Miss Carter." Evelyn nodded. "Thank you, Jordan." The father tried to whisper, but everyone heard him. This is wealth. Real wealth." Amina squeezed Malik's arm. He gave her a soft, reassuring smile. Evelyn led them into the dining hall. The mother clutched her chest. "This is bigger than our entire first floor." The table was long, carved wood with subtle gold detailing. The food was arranged like an elegant feast, but nothing excessive. Fresh bread, grilled vegetables, the rosemary chicken still steaming, a fruit arrangement shaped like a blooming flower. But the atmosphere wasn't about wealth. It was about warmth. Evelyn sat at the head of the table. She looked at Amina's parents, not coldly, not smugly, not victoriously, but with the same patient kindness she had shown the day before. "We are honored to have you," she said softly. The mother swallowed hard. The father cleared his throat. The sister looked down, cheeks flushed. Amina burst into tears, not from shame, but from sheer relief. "Thank you," she whispered. As they ate, the family slowly relaxed. Evelyn told stories from Malik's childhood, sweet, humble stories that reminded everyone at the table that wealth never raised him. Love did. Malik shared dreams for his future, not about money, but about purpose. And gradually, minute by minute, guilt began to form in Amina's parents like a weight pressing harder with every realization. They had insulted the very woman who could buy their entire neighborhood with a single transaction, yet who still treated them like honored guests. Near the end of lunch, the father spoke, his voice stiff with embarrassment. "Mrs. Carter, we owe you an apology." Evelyn set her fork down gently. "For what?" "For yesterday," he said quietly. "We were unkind. We made assumptions. the mother added, her voice barely above a whisper. "And we spoke to you with prejudice. We judged you unfairly." The sister nodded, eyes moist. "I did too. I mocked Malik. I'm so sorry." Evelyn smiled softly. "I accept your apologies, and I hold no anger." "But why didn't you tell us who you were?" the mother asked, baffled. "You let us insult you. You let us talk down to you." Evelyn folded her hands gently. "Because if I had told you who we were, you would have treated us differently, not because your hearts changed, but because your perception of our status did." She glanced around the table. "I didn't want you to see our wealth. I wanted you to see your truth." The room fell silent, a deep, reflective silence. Evelyn continued, voice soft but powerful. "Money doesn't make us better than anyone, and it doesn't make you better either. What makes us who we are is how we treat others when we think we have nothing to gain." Those words hung in the air like a gentle verdict, honest, fair, and impossible to deny. Amina's parents lowered their eyes. In the end, Evelyn didn't shame them. Life had already done that. Her role was simply to let the truth speak for itself. The table remained quiet long after Evelyn finished speaking, not the uncomfortable kind of silence they had heard yesterday. No, this was different. This silence carried realization, awakening, humility, and a deep understanding that the person they judged most was the person who deserved their respect the most. Amina's mother slowly placed her napkin down and inhaled shakily. "Mrs. Carter, Evelyn, I don't know how to express how terribly we behaved. You sat in our home, and instead of welcoming you, we insulted you." "You insulted yourself," Evelyn said softly. "And you corrected it. That is all anyone can ask." But this time her smile held something else, a gentle strength, a softness that also glimmered with unspoken truth. She knew exactly what she was doing, and they finally knew exactly who she was. The father cleared his throat again. "We wronged you, deeply, and I want to make it right." Evelyn tilted her head slightly. "What would making it right mean to you?" His answer was not money, not offerings, not excuses. It was honesty. "It means treating your family with the respect we failed to show. It means recognizing that our daughter is in love with a good man, and that goodness is worth more than any income." Amina's mother reached across the table, her voice small but sincere. "And it means thanking you, not just for today, but for not retaliating yesterday. I don't know if I could have held myself with such grace." Evelyn smiled gently. "My dear, sometimes silence is not weakness. It's strategy. Sometimes you must let people walk into the truth with their own feet." The mother blinked. "That feels like a very soft clapback." Evelyn laughed softly, the type of laugh that said, "I forgive you, but I also know exactly what happened here." "Perhaps," she said, "but life delivers bigger ones than I ever could." And life did, because as the tour of the estate began, the lessons only deepened. The tour. Where every room spoke a truth, Amina's family followed Evelyn through the mansion like timid schoolchildren trailing behind their principal. The music room, with its grand piano and violin collection signed by famous musicians, the indoor garden blooming with exotic flowers, the art gallery with original pieces gifted by creators who respected Evelyn's philanthropy. The sister whispered to Amina, "Your future mother-in-law is unreal, like a real queen." "She is," Amina said proudly. "You just didn't see it before." The sweetest clapbacks weren't sharp. They were woven into every step, every room, every gentle smile Evelyn gave. It wasn't revenge, it was revelation, and revelation always stung in the most honest ways. When they stepped outside to the terrace, overlooking the infinity pool and the vineyard stretching across the horizon, the father exhaled slowly. "I judged you," he admitted. Because I thought wealth should be loud. But yours isn't loud. It's lived. Evelyn placed a hand on the railing, the wind lifting a soft curl near her cheek. Wealth is quiet when it's real, she said. Noise is what people make when they want to appear bigger than they are. Another soft clapback, wrapped in elegance and pure truth. The mother covered her face, half laughing, half crying. I can't believe we lectured you about financial stability. Evelyn chuckled. Well, I enjoyed listening. It reminded me of how creative assumptions can be. Even Malik cracked a smile. The sweetest scene of all. Later, they returned to the sitting room where fresh mint tea was served. The atmosphere finally felt warm, genuine. Everyone sat comfortably except Amina's father, who still seemed weighed down by embarrassment. Finally, he looked at Malik directly. Son, he began, voice thick with sincerity, if our daughter still wants to marry you, you have our blessing. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to apologize man to man. Malik blinked, surprised. I accept your apology, sir. The father nodded slowly. I judged you before I met your heart. That was my mistake. Then he turned to Evelyn. And I judged you by your dress instead of your dignity. Your silence was a lesson I won't forget for the rest of my life. Evelyn's smile softened. We all learn, she said. That is the beauty of humanity. But then, with the sweetest, most graceful clapback of the entire day, she added, besides, if I responded to every insult I've ever received, I would have no time to enjoy the life I built. The entire room froze. Then slowly, laughter bubbled up. Joyful, relieved, self-aware laughter. Even Amina's mother laughed so hard, tears gathered in her eyes. That one hurt, she said, wiping her cheeks. But we deserved it. Evelyn winked. Then it was well placed. A new beginning. The mood transformed completely. For the first time since yesterday, everyone saw each other clearly. Not as rich or poor, not as superior or inferior, not as rivals or obstacles, but as people, imperfect, learning, hopeful. Amina leaned her head on Malik's shoulder. Her mother hugged Evelyn. Her father shook hands with the staff and thanked them personally. In one afternoon, truth repaired what prejudice had broken. As Amina's family prepared to leave, the mother turned back to Evelyn with a shy smile. Next time, please allow us to host you properly, she said. We'd like a second chance. Evelyn nodded warmly. Second chances are blessings. We accept. They embraced, and as the car drove away, Malik stood next to his mother on the steps of the estate. You handled everything perfectly, he said. Evelyn looked out over the gardens, her smile serene. No, my son. Life handled it. I just let people reveal themselves. He wrapped an arm around her. You're amazing, Mom. And you, she replied, are going to build a marriage rooted in love, not judgment. He nodded, deeply grateful. As the sun dipped behind the hills, the mansion glowed gold, almost as if it were blessing the moment. A day that began with humiliation ended with reconciliation. A family that once judged now respected. And a woman who said nothing ended up saying everything. You've been watching Stories by Maya, where every moment teaches, every twist surprises, and every ending inspires. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. Your support means the world.